You've pulled up to the job site, your slabs are staged, your customer is ready, but you need a cutter. So today we're going to review the ETM Rail Cutter 3rd generation and see how it does. The ETM Rail Cutter by European Tile Masters is a score and snap tool designed for 6mm gauged porcelain tile panels, otherwise known as porcelain slabs. This system is comprised of 2 rails joined together in the middle by a quick connect system that is screwed and tightened into place. All bolts and locking mechanisms on the system are metric, with necessary hex key wrenches provided with purchase of the system. The rail system also uses 3 suction cups to secure the rails to the face of the tile. The cutter head, or as I like to refer to it as the train, has a spring-loaded knob that forces added pressure down onto the cutting wheel, ensuring even pressure throughout your score. This feature makes the ETM Rail Cutter excellent for long or awkward cuts down the middle of a slab. Now, if we take the train off of the ETM Rail Cutter and take a better look at the underneath section, you're going to find a channel here with ball bearings on the left and on the right. I'm going to spin this upside down. You can clearly see all these little gray balls, these little bearings that allow that system to smoothly traverse down the rail. You want to make sure that you keep this section as clean as possible. And while we are talking about cleaning, how do you maintain the ETM Rail Cutter? You will need the following: a can of WD-40, several clean rags, and just a few cotton Q-tips. Start by setting up a table or stand to support the rails. Gently rub or wipe off any dust or old oil with the dry rag, including the suction cups. Use the Q-tips to get into those harder to access spaces, especially the section where the ball bearings will roll. After you've fully cleaned off the surface, take the WD-40 and spray the zone where the train will roll against. You can wipe up any excess that drips down on the rail cutter. If you clean well enough, the train should be able to easily move to the other side without stopping or locking up. So it's at this point that we need to introduce 2 more additional tools that are companions to the ETM Rail Cutter. The first is the ETM Snap. The second is the ETM Splitter, to which I affectionately call the T-handle. The ETM Snap is a necessary tool to pop the score line you will be making. Without this device or another provider's version, you will not be able to split your pieces apart properly. It is comprised of 2 key parts, the first being these small black plastic pieces that slide. One must be placed as far as possible on both sides of the score line. This allows the pressure screw to slowly push up, splitting the tile with a slow building pressure. The T-handle is used to break and separate smaller cuts or strips after they have been popped. This is a favorite of mine and necessary for anyone doing porcelain countertops. Your rail cutter is clean, your table is set up and as flat as needed, but how do you actually use the ETM Rail Cutter? Well, the first tip that I'm going to give you is that you want to go ahead and mark both at the start and at the end where your measurement is going to be. A small pencil line will do. Now, move your rail so that the bumper, the tightly fastened rubber peg located underneath the rail, to bump against the porcelain. This will be where you start your cut and ensures that the ETM cutter is at the proper position. It's a good habit to have the slab ever so slightly overhang where you're going to start your cut. This way you know that the bumper is going to hit the tile rather than the table. Lightly push down on the cutter head to see if the cutting wheel lines up with your marks. Generally, the wheel is offset 3/8 of an inch from the rail edge. Engage just the first suction cup and move to the opposite side to verify the same. Engage remaining suction cups while moving train to start position. Move the lever to your desired score pressure and begin to push the train down the slab. You will hear what sounds like a paper being ripped in two. This does involve a little bit of planning and being observant. You don't want the cutter, as it exits the slab, to suddenly come down atop of your table or cutting surface. This might tend to damage your cutting wheel, which in turn cuts short the lifespan of that wheel. Disengage the suction cups, possibly pulling them at the edge to release pressure, and move the ETM cutter to a safe position. Move the slab into a position that allows you to fit the ETM snap at both sides of the slab. Line up the small dot on the snap with the score line. Begin to slowly screw up the pressure screw until you hear a pop. Let's listen again. Over time, as you gain experience working with porcelain slabs, you'll learn what a normal pop sound sounds like. Sometimes it's faint, sometimes it's loud, and sometimes it just rings through the entire slab. Regardless, when you hear something that's different, it might end up being a compromised slab. After you've heard the pop, do a quarter more turn to see the tile barely open up, ensuring that you have a strong split on the material. At this point, move the slab back atop your fab table and line up the score line with the edge of the table. Take the T-handle and slowly begin working down the edge of the tile. You'll notice that I am placing the handle at the furthest point the tile has already separated before working more. Use your free hand to support the area you've already split. Once you get to the end, it should be easy to fully split the remaining section. Now for this review, we did not include or use the ETM Easy Breaker or the ETM Edge Breaker. If you own an ETM table or are considering one, I highly encourage you to pick these up. They really help out a bunch when you're dealing with a full slab cut or you're going down the middle of a piece. So we know that the ETM snap cuts really well, but my question is, how small of a piece can we get? We're going to go ahead and try a 1-inch, 3/4, and 1/2-inch pieces and see the results. The 1-inch cut went as planned. The 3/4 inch was able to cleanly pop off the whole run, but split in two as we worked the edge. The 1/2-inch cut we attempted was barely able to get us 6 inches as it was too small for the T-handle to break off. So when it comes to the train, what setting should you use when selecting your lever pressure? Well, as it was explained to me, the first lever really is not helpful. The second setting is going to be for your lighter colored materials, again 6mm, whereas the third is going to be for your darker colors, perhaps even 8mm material. But overall, I just go to setting 3 and let it rip. You need to adjust your rail. The slab is just not long enough to be used properly. So what do? Well, you can move your suction cups no problem with the ETM snap. But one thing to keep in mind is when you flip over the rail system, you need to make sure that you have these small stoppers located as close to the suction cup as possible. Most of your rail systems are going to come with 3, if not 4 of them. They sometimes come loose, so you want to make sure that they're always present when you're done at a job site and not sweep it up into the garbage. To move your suction cups, lightly loosen the bolts using your hex wrench and slide to a desired position. Retighten and you are ready to go. If your crew is throwing this rail cutter into the back of a trailer, back of a truck or van, and it's getting banged around, your alignment is going to be off. You need to make sure that that cut is straight. Save yourself some headache. At the same time, make sure your train does not wobble. Tighten down with a 4mm hex key and ensure a smooth run. Overall length of the assembled ETM rail cutter is 138.5 inches, while the half rail measures 69 inches in length. With the assembled rail cutter, you should have no problem cutting any porcelain slab on the market today. As far as availability goes, the ETM rail cutter can be ordered directly from ETM. You can also place orders through many tile distributors such as Emser Tile and Dow Tile. Now, don't expect to be able to walk into the store and pick one up off the shelf, as these are special order items and shipping and taxes may apply. Pricing for the ETM rail cutter is going to run around $2,100 plus shipping and tax for the 2-part full-length system. This is a costly cutter compared to others on the market, but reliability of the score line is what I think drives the price. It's not based on the pressure of the user, but rather on the device itself. One of the features of the ETM snap that I really have enjoyed is the fact of the train having that 3-level spring-loaded system that allows you to get even pressure as you go through your cut. It can be in the middle of the slab, it can be on the outside of the slab, it could be dead center. It doesn't matter. It will have even pressure throughout. On the other hand, one of the disadvantages that I've found is when you're using the single long rail system, it's a bit time consuming to go ahead and disassemble off of the locking system. This makes it a little challenging if you're maybe trying to make a quick cut and you have to go down to the smaller 68-inch version. So what I would recommend is, if possible, to go ahead and get yourself a secondary rail. something that you can use as a backup, maybe for maintenance even, but something that you can quickly take the train off of one rail and put it onto the other so that you're able to get that second cut off and running. Overall, the ETM Rail Cutter 3rd generation is a solid tool for those who are working with porcelain slabs on the daily or are looking to do so. ETM tools are American made and are designed by a tile installer himself. Now, I know when I started, if I had had this tool in my arsenal, I probably would have avoided a lot of costly mistakes. So keep that in mind when you're placing your order or looking at rail cutters across the market. This is a top tier cutter, and in turn, it is priced as such. Overall, it's a great tool for a critical part of working with porcelain slabs in the field. If properly handled, properly maintained, and properly used, you will get your investment back very quickly. Thank you so much for watching my review of the ETM Rail Cutter 3rd generation. I really hope you were able to gain a good overview of the tool. Now, make sure you like and subscribe below, as we're going to be releasing tons of future videos where we show different brands, whether it's a lifter, the table, other saws, other equipment that's necessary to be a successful GPTP installer. And as always, you're not a pro unless you know. Half inch is not possible.